What's going on, guys? Boy, do I have an incredible video and announcement for you guys today. I have just purchased a single Pokemon card that is very rare, very sought after, and one of the cards I've wanted for a long time for $4,000. And we're going to go ahead and talk about this card in a minute here. But we're not just going to talk about the card. We're not just going to talk about the market. We're not just going to talk about the money and the value. We're also going to go over the history and the kind of inspiration behind this card and behind this Pokemon and the origin of everything. And really go into some Japanese culture and folklore as well. So I'm really excited. I hope you guys are ready. It's going to be a good video. I got to drink some coffee. It has been a super long day. I've been running around doing stuff for the bar all day, and I'm finally sat down, gonna have another cup of coffee. I'm gonna talk about this card that I've had now for over a week, and it's been sitting, and I'm like, when are you gonna do it? When are you gonna open up this card? This is gonna be epic. I'm really excited, so bear with me, guys. Oh man, and I am starting to become a huge fan of coffee. My entire life I've avoided drinking coffee, and I just think at this point in my life as an adult, I can only get so much done, and coffee just helps expedite that process so much more. Okay, here we go. Let's break it out. Let's break it out. This is what y'all are waiting for. Not trying to waste anybody's time here. We're a minute in, and I'm sure you guys are really looking forward to this. Now, this really should have been a mystery mail day video, but for whatever reason, my dubbed videos, the Pokemon Mystery Mail Day series, for whatever reason, it doesn't do all that well, and it's starting to do way better than it did in the past. But for certain cards like these, I can't risk sharing this card with everybody out there. I can't risk that it basically goes unnoticed. So we're doing a different style, a different title. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I did purchase this card off eBay, trying not to show any information there about the shipping or my address. All right, you guys ready? So I have never seen one of these pop up for an affordable option, and honestly, I just decided, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna pull the trigger. So we pulled the trigger. I picked up one of my all-time Grail cards, and yeah, okay, without further ado, 3, 2, 1, wham! And it is Gold Star Espeon in a PSA 9. Some of you are probably thinking, wait a minute, is there a holo? Is there a holo pattern? No, this card does not have a holo pattern. So let's go ahead, let's take this guy out. Let's take the first time I've actually held one in person. Oh, and it's super clean. Okay, the front's super clean. Okay, let me take off the tamper-proof seal here, and then there's an awesome history behind this card that I want to talk about. And for the most part, Eevee and the Eevee evolutions have become very popular in this hobby. Pretty much everybody and their mother likes Eevee and the Eevee evolutions, particularly Espeon and Umbreon. The Umbreon was dubbed the Moonbreon, one of the most iconic cards of the Sword and Shield era that everybody wanted. Unfortunately, I think the Espeon was just as cool, but the Espeon didn't get nearly as much love. Oh, it's in great condition. It's in phenomenal condition. I am so glad I picked this card up. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the back of the card. We'll go over values and population and all that good stuff, because these cards are super, super low pop. We're going to go over all that stuff at the end, but it's pretty funny. Wow. So I thought that the Espeon and Umbreon at least had a holo gold star. I thought that at least the gold star. So for reference, when I mentioned gold star, just bring out my Rayquaza here for the billionth time on this channel. When I'm talking about gold star, I'm talking about Pokemon that have this shiny gold star right there. So there's Rayquazas. I thought at the very least, Espeon and Umbreon would at least have a shiny star, but nope. It's actually, the entire card is non-holo. I didn't realize that. I thought the card was non-holo, but the gold star was still shiny and gold. Just give me something, right? It kills me that this card is not in a holo. Now, the Japanese version of this card, the the 30,000 point play version. There's a Japanese version of this card, way more expensive, just absolutely stunning. But I am completing the English Gold Star collection. So for me, I'm going to get English first. Who knows? Maybe down the road, I'll go after the Japanese variants. Probably not going to happen because they are ridiculously expensive. We're talking, this card's a $4,000 card. We're talking, this card in Japanese is a $40,000 card. So really jumps up in Japanese, but regardless, it's in phenomenal condition. As you guys can see, it is a PSA 9, and it's an old cert. It's a 2-3 cert, but that doesn't really bother me all that much. I'm just glad that the card is legit and it's in really, really good condition. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this card and what makes it so special. I could not remember all the information about this card, but I was looking it up. I usually wing it, and I feel like that ends up biting me in the butt because I know that I want to do a really good video. I rarely ever have any kind of script or anything that I'm reading off of. I'm always pretty much winging it and freeballing it, but in this case, I wanted to write the stuff down. It is important, and I don't want to disrespect the Japanese culture behind basically what Espeon is kind of based off of. So let's go ahead and get into it. Maddie, our pit bull, just opened the door to the game room. Maddie, I'm doing something here right now. Thank you. Okay. So, Espeon, the Generation 2 Eevee evolution line, who's psychic in nature and evolves from reaching a certain level and becoming close friends with its trainer. The leveling up of the friendship characteristic, so is what evolves Eevee into Espeon. Espeon, as well as one of the well-known crystal beasts in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I remember this, I remember the exact card in Yu-Gi-Oh! And how similar it looked to this Espeon. There's a crystal beast Yu-Gi-Oh! Card that looks eerily similar to Espeon, except this version, the tail of that creature has a red orb, as well as having a red orb in its head. They are based off of a Japanese history and folklore, the Japanese history of demonic cats, known as Baki Niko. I'm gonna screw this up, but Baki Niko. Or otherwise known as the yokai, the supernatural creatures, whom eventually with age can essentially evolve into an even more insidious version known as the Nikomata. So the Nikomata is essentially what Espeon is based off of. Espeon is based off of the Japanese folklore demonic cat, the Nikomata. So this gets way more interesting, but so in 1602, there was an imperial decree to basically release all felines, domestic or trained, out into the wild in an attempt to naturally reduce pest population of rats and mice. So the farms and livestock in Japan were severely affected by a seemingly endless population of rodents consuming and destroying everything. Pretty terrifying, guys. I don't know about you, but whenever I see a mouse or a rat, I pretty much freak out. I can't imagine them being everywhere. The only place I can think of that happening is pretty much New York, which makes sense because it's kind of grungy. It's kind of a dirty place. No disrespect to anybody that lives in New York. People think New York is the absolute best. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. I had no idea that Japan, of all places, had a rat infestation essentially in the 1600s. I would have never known. And the history of cats in Japan, I think the waving cat is what it was, and I haven't written anything down about that here, but the history of cats in Japan goes way back, probably comes over from Egypt, but I don't know that for a fact. Anyways, instantly, cats became the guardians of peace and prosperity in Japan and proved to be a solution to their problem. So it did work. They released these cats and pretty much it became their pest control, which is pretty awesome because naturally they did all the work for them. Cats are really cool. I'm not a huge fan of cats. My fiance Diana is a way bigger fan of cats than me, but I think that this is kind of fitting because the other night, someone found a baby kitten in the Home Depot parking lot. And of course, Diana, being the selfless, loving, animal caretaking person that she is, if you don't know this, My wife fosters a lot of animals, so we constantly have noise in the background from various dogs that are living with us. But in this case, she took in a kitten the other night. This thing was like I can't do it justice by talking about it, but it didn't really even fit in my palm. It was so small. And I think everybody has seen a kitten at one point or another, but it was absolutely adorable and fitting for us to go into this. But cats are just really awesome. They kind of do their own thing. I'm not a huge cat person, but maybe I'll start to become one more. Anyways, the Japanese history of demonic cats, known as the Bakineko, the yokai, whom eventually with age essentially evolve into an even more insidious version known as the Nikomata. So more on that. Oh, backside. Also, I wrote additionally here, because my chicken scratch is terrible, but I can read it. Killing cats is thought to bring curses in Japan, probably because of the history of cats and basically the fact that they kind of saved Japan, right? Because without your livestock, without your farms, grain, rice, you're screwed, right? That's the main thing they export, eat. So at that time is pretty much do or die, in which case they released the cats and pretty much cleaned up shop. In order to avoid them turning evil, they cut their tails, hence the Japanese bobtail cat. So there's a really common cat that can be found in pretty much all of Japan, I imagine, especially if cats are just a mainstream thing in Japan. I don't know if that's still a modern thing or if this was really just back in the day, but the bobtail cat is a basically cut tail cat. Now, I don't know if there's instances where this is natural, but from what it says here, from what I read, people would cut the tails of the cats so that they didn't turn into Bakineko, or Nikomata. I would have never remembered the terminology. But anyways, they cut their tails essentially so they didn't turn evil, which is really funny because obviously the cats weren't demonic or evil, and scholars believed that the reason that people thought they were evil, well, we'll get into that. Okay. As cats became such an influential part of Japanese history, so did the stories and mythology that followed. Specifically, the legends of Bakineko and other evolved form Nikomata became a staple for storytelling and magical abilities. Now, the Bakineko, I think, is a more common version of these demonic cats, right? They would stand on their hind legs, create mischief, create fireballs, and start fires. And why they became feline that created fires, I'm not sure. But they would basically torment people. So after a number of years, some say like 40 to 90 years or something, or maybe it's 10 years. Once they're 10 years old, either they turn 10 or they grow a double tail, which you guys probably can't see it very well here, but Espeon has this forked tail right here. There's technically two tails. So basically it's one or the other. They either get old enough and they are insidious enough where they evolve into the Nikomata, or they grow a forked tail. Now this tail, the Bakineko is able to stand on their hind legs. Supposedly, that's how the legend goes. But the Nikomata is able to stand on its hind legs and additionally gains other worldly powers, such as shape shifting and speaking pretty much multiple languages. So let's see. For the most part, all of these kinds of cats are known to be demonic, evil, and nefarious, but not all were this way. Some were incredible companions and protectors of their owners. Like I said before, powers including fireballs, creating fires, raising the dead. I forgot about that one. Raising the dead, or controlling the dead, I should say, as well as shape-shifting. The Bakineko were known for standing on their hind legs, while the Nikomata grew a two-part tail, which allowed them even better abilities, powers. Okay, so in terms of standing on their hind legs, it's kind of weird to imagine. I've never seen a cat standing on its hind legs personally. They're not really supposed to, but scholars believe that this is because they had these lamps in Japan that used fish oil and I think this is kind of a weak theory, but they had lamps that used fish oil, and so the cats would stand on their hind legs to lick the lamps. Thus, the origin of the folklore of these Baki Nico cats standing on their hind legs. Anyways, so once they became Nico Mata, they could basically shapeshift once they became Nico Mata and speak multiple languages. Now, mention the napkin dance. Okay, that's funny. The napkin dance. Okay, so there's this weird thing where the Nico Mata, once they would shapeshift into their owners or other people they were imitating to trick other humans, it made them very happy. So happy that they ended up dancing on their hind legs with a napkin on their head. I have no idea. I'm not even going to theorize why cats are dancing with napkins on their heads. It reminds me of that cat movie. I can't remember the name of it, but all the cats dancing and playing musical instruments. That's what it kind of reminds me of. But anyways, it's thought that Espeon was also based off of, yeah, this is also a fun fact about the natural world. It's thought that Espeon was also based off of a South American cat called the carbuncle cat, which the carbuncle cat has I don't know if I'm saying that right either, but very, very large ears, similarly to the Espeon, which has freakishly large ears. Now, Espeon, unlike Umbreon, Espeon has special powers. It has psychic powers, and it uses the red orb in its head to use these powers. And it charges that orb and gains its powers through basically basking in sunlight. Basically, that is also why Espeon does not like to fight in the dark. And so you have Umbreon, you know, the dichotomy between Umbreon and Espeon. Umbreon gets I'm assuming this right off the top of my head, that Espeon gets its power from the sun and Umbreon gets its power from the moon. Hence, all of these artworks that are depicted with Umbreon with a moon behind it. But yeah, they're likely based off of the South American carbuncle cat. And people say, well, why would Japanese culture use any other culture to base, you know, these animals or illustrations off of? And I think it's fair to say that multiple cultures were probably used for a lot of Pokemon, as we've figured out with Pokemon that are basically based off of Madagascar lizards like the Trico we talked about recently. Espeon has psychic powers, charges power by basking in the sun. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything I have on Espeon and kind of the folklore and mythology of the Nico Mata. So let's talk about this Espeon, okay? So Espeon and Umbreon both come from Pop Series 5 packs. Now, these Pop Series 5 packs were not out of booster boxes, which makes these cards way, way rarer. Now, granted, I'm not a huge fan of the style of the card. The fact that there is no holo action on the card at all is kind of a bummer, but that would not stop me from collecting these cards. Currently, I am searching for the Umbreon in a PSA 9. I recently lost my chance at it. The same seller who sold this card to me, I tried to work out a deal with them, and it didn't work out, and it ended up getting sold to somebody else who was willing to pay, I think, like $500 more or $700 more, I think, than what I offered, which was a bummer, because if they would have just let me know, hey, this is the offer I'm getting, I probably still would have one-upped that offer and put another $50, $100 on that offer, just to get my hands on this card. Well, on the Umbreon in a PSA 9. But I'm really happy to have this card. This is one of the tougher cards to pull off out of the Gold Stars. In terms of Gold Stars left, I've got the Gold Star Charizard, the Gold Star Umbreon. I have the Rayquaza, but I'm hoping to get a PSA copy of Rayquaza. So let's just count that in there, because I'm probably going to do that. And then there's Celebi and Mew, which I think I'm working out a deal with. So I think at this point, Umbreon, Gold Star Charizard, getting another Rayquaza, Celebi, Mew. I think that's it. I think I'm missing 5 cards. So I have 22 Gold Stars, I think, at this point. We're missing 5. yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember any others that I'm missing. But yeah, these cards are super low population. In a PSA 10, I think the Umbreon is 50 something in a PSA 10. Like, there's only 50 something of them in the world graded PSA 10. Now in PSA 9, the pops are still super low. I think they're sub 200. I want to say they're in the mid hundreds, like 140 or 130 maybe. I should probably know that off the top of my head, but I was more interested in the history and the origins of where these designs came from than the actual specifics about its rarity. All we know is that this is a super rare card, and they're probably going to go up in value. So I just thought, you know what? YOLO. Let's go ahead and cross this one off the list. So finally, we have the Espeon, and I am so glad I picked up this card just because I've been avoiding looking at Umbreon and Espeon, and they keep getting more expensive. So I think this is just one of those times where I just need to rip off the Band-Aid and find these cards sooner than later. Not worried about Mew. I'm not worried about Celebi. I'm not worried about Gold Star Charizard. There's plenty of those. Even though I not say that Gold Star Charizard isn't sick, but main concerns right now are the last big boys, arguably the hardest Gold Stars, which would be Gold Star Rayquaza and PSA. Very, very tough to get and seems to be on the rise on price. We just saw a record-breaking sale on Gold Star Rayquaza recently. And then, of course, the Gold Star Umbreon. There is one copy right now on eBay, and it's set at like $9,500. And I set an offer of $6,500 even after the fact that I knew that one just got sold to somebody else for $6,250 and the offer was declined. So people are really holding out for the Umbreon. That one is going to hurt like heck to buy, but I'm glad I crossed this one off and got to share it with you guys. These Pop Series cards are super rare, super hard to find. It's hard to find Pop Series packs in general these days. It's not like booster boxes where we can speculate on, you know, the print number of booster boxes out there and how many were made, and then speculate. You know, with this, there are very few of these packs out there. There's very few examples in mint condition like this one. So it's safe to say that this card is going to go up in value and that this card could become one of the most expensive cards that I end up owning. But it's pretty cool. The whole history behind the design of Espeon is pretty cool. Considering the fact that I knew nothing about the Japanese culture of cats and felines in general, I think it's pretty cool that I got to brush up on some of the history of Japan, as well as, you know, appreciate the art for what it is based off of that history. It makes it way easier to appreciate than just buying a non-holo card for $4,000 that I really have no business owning because I don't make the kind of money to be buying these cards, but I am making it happen. This is, you know, a part of a huge goal, collecting the Gold Stars. I've been told, like, you're not going to be able to complete this goal within, you know, 6 months to a year. And, you know, maybe 6 months was a stretch. I think I thought I was going to be able to do this a lot sooner than I did. And I'm realizing how difficult it is to find a lot of these cards. But I do think probably with just over a year, I will complete my Gold Star set. And that's going to be such a sick video to do. Just sharing all of them together, laying them out on a table, and looking at all of them all together. It's one of those sets. It's one of these special sets that's just, like, not only is it vintage, and I love vintage, but also it's quite a large little set, you know? The crystals behind me, which that Crystal Charizard is still the most expensive card I've bought to date, but in terms of, okay, dogs are going crazy. Anyways, I think maybe the dogs are giving me my cue to close this thing up. But yeah, this has been an amazing journey, and I'm really happy that I got to share this card with you guys. And please, like, this is in no way like a flex. This is just really, really cool to have this card in my possession now, and it almost feels surreal. And I'm hoping in the next, I want to say in the next 2 to 3 months, I could probably complete this set. But, okay, now I remember what I was saying. Unlike the crystals behind me, that's a 9-card set, guys. And I'm still missing the Crystal Celebi. There was an auction that ended for $12.75 today for a PSA 9, and I just thought, that's still too much money. I'm trying to get one for around, like, $1,000 or $1,100. Otherwise, I'd just go for a PSA 10 probably. But that's a 9-card set. Very cool to be able to complete that from 9 cards. And that also was a feat in itself. But these are 2 of my biggest goals, completing the gold stars and completing the crystals. And we're getting very close. On top of that, you guys know that I'm also trying to complete another epic goal of finding a first edition Charizard and a PSA 9 to go with my Blastoise and my Venusaur, as well as the rest of my master set, which I'm putting off until I get that Charizard. I've realized in the past I've started with cheaper cards to complete a set. I'm not doing that anymore. Here on out, when I want to complete a goal, I'm going to go after the most expensive, hardest to find card, and I'll go after everything else after, because it's really stressful trying to find these last cards, and I wish I would have done it sooner. But like anybody who's into collecting, this is something that builds with time. You don't start collecting Grail cards like this right off the bat, and if you did, you would be told you're being crazy. But this is something that builds with time. Also, I have something very exciting coming for one of our mail days. I just picked up one of the most sought-after Pokemon decks ever, and I'm really, really excited to share that with you guys. I've been searching for one of these for years now, and I finally found one. Not the most epic one I'm looking for, but pretty high up there. So we've got some exciting mail days coming ahead, and yeah, I'm just super excited to share all this stuff with you guys. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you at this week's live, and hopefully you guys will watch the next videos that I make. All right, thank you everybody. Peace out. And let me know what you think of the Japanese folklore and the history of the cats. And if you have anything to add to that, please add to the history of Espeon. Let people in the comments know why Espeon is special or what makes it unique. Anything that I forgot to add is something that somebody else can add to educate the community and people that are interested in Espeon in general, or just these cards in general. I do want to say that Espeon is definitely a peak Pokemon. Some of my favorite Espeon cards are both modern and vintage. The Fusion Strike Espeon VMAX, the Espeon V from Evolving Skies, the Aquapolis Espeon. There are some incredible artworks, and I believe Neo Discovery Espeon as well. I believe that's another one. But Espeon is a epic Pokemon, and this is an epic card. Anyways, guys, I'm going to let you go so I can stare at my Espeon card for another 5 minutes while I realize how much financial damage I just did. All right, guys. Peace!